Peace and blessings. This is Satori one time again. We're going to do another vibe session. We're going to deal with the truth series. We're going to deal with part 4. If we sit back and recall what we dealt with last time, is we brought out the simple fact that truth is measurable. And then we also brought out that truth is personal. And so today, what we're going to deal with is going to deal with the truth being personal. Because we recall, the scripture that I've been mentioning throughout the whole series, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And so when we look at that, we see that you shall know the truth. That means it should be personal. We brought out it should be first-hand knowledge, that you should have it, that you have access to be able to experience the truth. So that's one thing we also want to bring out, is that truth is not something that should be theory. It should be something that we should experience. So when we say truth is personal, and what we're saying is that truth is accessible if we desire it. Truth is accessible if we have an interest in truth. So in other words, we talk about desire and interest. What we're talking about is that creates a demand. So if we demand truth, if our essence, if our being truly demands the truth, truth shall be accessible. Now, when we say personal, that's where we're getting this line of thought at, is that truth is not something that should be separate from us. Truth should be something that is inclusive. Truth is something that should be personal. Truth is something that we experience. So that means truth becomes a part of us. So we should become the truth. We should be able to come to reality. And as we become the reality, we'll be able to heighten our own awareness, because the benefits of truth impacts each and one of us personally. All right? So if we do not demand or have an interest in the truth, what we do is we cause our hearts and our minds to be closed to the truth. So what that means is that we block ourselves from the truth. The heart is the vehicle where truth resides. Truth exists, it's a realm, and a realm is an operative knowledge. But we project the truth in our lives to be able to recognize the truth. And so that's what you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. The results is when you have truth, that we'll be able to create some freedom, as we've been bringing out through this whole series. Now, so keep in mind is, so if I don't have an interest in truth, if I don't desire the truth, it means I close my heart and mind to the truth. All right? And so I think about that, and I know probably some of y'all are wondering, like, well, why would somebody want to close themselves off to knowing the truth? I'm glad you asked that question. So I'm just going to list a couple things of why we don't want the truth. All right, and before I start breaking that part down, I want to bring to mind that there's a scripture in Psalms that says that God desires for the truth to be in our inward parts. So that also flows into what we're bringing up today about truth being personal. Is that God desires for the truth to reside within us, within us being part of our own being. All right. The reason why we recognize people do. The reason why we don't recognize people desiring the truth. There's several reasons. One reason is that we don't want to be responsible for our decisions that we make. Remember, truth brings about responsibility. And so, a lot of us innately, remember, all this truth should be desired on the inward parts. So all this is, we're talking about what's going on in the inner being of ourselves. Innately, a lot of us, and just, everybody's different, but there's a lot of individuals that do not want to be responsible for how they think or for the decisions that they make. That's one reason. Another reason is Remember, truth brings in transparency, which means it allows you to be able to see yourself. It brings in light. And so if truth brings in light, if someone does not want the truth, what this also points to that innately that we don't desire to see ourselves. We don't desire to see how we think. We don't desire to really see our true selves. And so we have to ask the question, what do you see? When you look in the mirror, and when I look at myself in the mirror, what do I see? Do I see my struggles? Do I see my pain? Do I see the people I've done wrong? Do I see my ulterior motives? Do I see how I'm trying to trick people? Or do I see the forgiveness in me? Do I see the love inside me? Do I see the hope in humanity? Do I see the drive and the passion for equity? Do I desire to see other individuals be able to grow spiritually? Do I see love inside myself? And so each of us have to ask ourselves that question for ourselves. Because at the end of the day is we are accountable for ourselves. And so, and remember, truth brings about responsibility. First thing truth's going to do is cause us to be able to see ourselves. And so that's the question, what do we see? But a lot of times people block themselves or remove themselves from truth because they don't want to see themselves. All right? Another thing that we don't want, another reason is that innately, people prefer to live life out of instinct. They don't want to live, they just want to be able to just live out of instinct. What that means, they want to live out of feeling. They just want to I feel like doing it. You know, a lot of times I'm grown, I'm going to do what I want to do. So they just kind of want to just take life for what it is. They don't want to really have a purpose behind what they do as they live. So they just want to just live out of instinct. So everything is, basically what it is random living. All right. Some people prefer just to live, just do random living. All right. Another reason is that people don't want to think. Flat out. So a lot of times people don't desire truth. They don't have an interest in truth because they don't want to think. Because once you get the truth, now you got to think. Why? Because now you're accountable. Why? Because now you're enlightened. You know, now you've been exposed to how things work. You're exposed to the consequences of things, which automatically heightens your awareness to see what's really going on. So you got to question what you really see that's contrary for how things really should be. So that means automatically when truth comes in, it automatically kind of activates your discernment. So, but a lot of people do not want to think. All right. Another reason is a lot of people want to ignore the issues in their life. They want to ignore the problems in their life. You know, they just want to escape from it. So they don't want to have to face the truth. So long as they don't have to face the truth, it gives them self-permission or that self-justification to be able to just kind of ignore what is really happening. All right? And so these are some basic reasons why individuals don't have an interest in knowing the truth. All right? And so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And so when we talk about truth as being personal, if truth is personal, that means I'm responsible for blocking myself from the truth. So if truth is personal, it means I'm responsible for blocking myself from receiving the truth by simply not having an interest in truth. All right? And so now we're talking about interest and desire. That basically determines our decision making. All right? So now I repeat that again. When we talk about having an interest in truth or having desire for truth, that means when you have interest and desire, that dictates our decision making. And so now, we understand that truth should be related to our decision making. Why is that important? Because life is a decision. And so everything we see in life is a result of our decisions, or our pattern of our decisions. Okay? And so let's sit back and say, what is life? Life in itself is just neutral. Life is a container of projections that we all project into it. So whatever we see in life is a projection from our hearts into life. So everything we see is just really a reflection of ourselves. So really, people that think they have an issue with life, you don't have an issue with life. You have an issue with the projections that you see in life. Think about that. All right? So our decisions should be assisted with truth. Why? Because truth is the knowledge of reality. And so if we're making decisions, we want to have a reality available to us so we can become decisive in the decision that we're trying to make. If we do not have reality, if that is separate, then we become more indecisive. We make more indecisions in what we're doing. So the more indecisions that we see is a result of a lack of truth. And the more decisive someone becomes, that's an evidence of that there's truth present. All right? So think about it. So decisions impacts relationships. Decision impacts relationships. So decisions frame relationships. And then relationships makes up or creates an environment. Now check this out. When two people come together, that's an environment. Right off the rip. So relationships makes up and creates an environment. And then our environments reinforces mindsets. Environments reinforces mindsets. And then mindsets, well, I want to say reinforced mindsets assist culture. So reinforced mindsets assist culture. And then culture causes a meme effect. And that anyone that's curious about it, meme effect, M-E-M-E. So a meme, when we talk about meme effect, we're talking about ideas and thoughts and behaviors or style that is transferred from person to person. Because culture is expression, so there's a meme effect that occurs. And a meme effect is related to decision making. But you go through the process because decision affects relationships. Relationships shapes and makes up the environment. And then the environment, what it does, it reinforces the mindset. As people become that mindset and they begin to operate in that certain mindset, that begins to assist a culture. And then that culture that reflects the mindset or the ideology that certain people have in certain groups or segments or demographics, how we want to classify it, it begins to what? Create a meme effect. So it begins to spread. All right? So you think about that whole process. So if we interject truth into it, then that means that we'll start seeing more truth operate in our lives. Because see, just as we see falsehood operating in life, we can see truth operating in our life. Understand something. That everybody doesn't desire to see love in the world. Everybody doesn't desire to see forgiveness in the world. Everybody doesn't desire to see economic equality. Why is that? Because everybody's not interested or have a desire for truth. All right, so I'm going to leave it right there. Keep this in mind. Is that truth is personal. And truth is measured by our decisions. We'll greet you in love and light. Peace and blessings. We'll be back again. One love.